Okay, so we're back, and let's take a look at 12. You're probably asking yourself, or you're thinking, Mr. Cavell, you could probably make this a lot harder, right? This seems really easy, but I bet it gets more difficult. Well, let me give you some examples that might look harder, but really aren't any different. Okay, something like number 12. The key to this and all the things we do this week, no matter how complicated it looks, if you know the rules, you just follow the rules. And what the rules say is that when you multiply monomials, when you multiply variables, you keep the base, you add the exponents. So in number 12, first thing, let's take care of the coefficients. 8 times negative 3 times 3 over 8. Okay, now on the side here, I can do this. 8, let me make sure you can see it. 8 times negative 3 times 3 over 8. Okay, now you can use a calculator as well. You get negative 24, 8 times negative 3, times 3 over 8. Now we can reduce this. See if that focuses. Well, okay. If we reduce this, 24 divided by 8, negative 24 divided by 8 is negative 3, and negative 3 times 3 is positive 9. Is negative 9, excuse me. Is negative 9. All right, so we multiply this, we get negative 9. Now you have y's and you also have x's. Normally you're going to write your answer in alphabetical order. So let me put x first. So let's look at the x's. X squared and then x to the first. When you multiply the variables, keep the base, add the exponents, 2 plus 1. And then we're going to take the y's, and the exponents are 3, y to the third, y to the second, times y to the fourth. We add the exponents, we get negative 9, x to the third, and then y to the, that adds up to 9. That's it. There's nothing else to combine. Let's do 13. 2a to the fourth, b, I'm going to put a 1 there, b to the first, times negative 3a squared b to the third. All right, let's start with the coefficients. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Multiply the coefficients. Variables, we have an a. A to the fourth times a to the second, keep the base, add the exponents, 4 plus 2. For the b's, keep the base, add the exponents, 1 plus 3, and we get negative 6, a raised to the 6th power, b to the 4th. That's it. Okay, let me switch papers here because number 15 looks kind of messy. All right, let's take a look at 15. Okay, I'm going to start skipping around here a little bit. Let's take a look at 15. Wow, that looks complicated. Negative 18, x to the fourth, y to the third, z to the seventh, times 4, x to the first, y to the first, z to the first. Let's put the ones there. All right, take a difficult problem, break it into easy steps. Step 1, let's multiply the coefficients. Negative 18 times 4, that's negative 72. Take the variables, x to the fourth times x to the first, keep the base, add the exponents. Y to the third times y to the first, keep the base, add the exponents. Z to the seventh times z to the first, keep the base, add the exponents, and we get negative 72, x to the fifth, y to the fourth, z to the eighth. Whoops, that should be 7 plus 1, excuse me. There we go. That's it. There's your answer. Let's look at 16. Ooh, negative exponents. Negatives, we're going to talk more about these in the next couple days, but for now, 4 times 1/2, take the coefficients. 4 times 1/2 is 2. It doesn't matter if the exponent's negative, the process is the same. When you multiply the variables, keep the base, add the exponents. Negative 2 plus 5 gives us 2x to the third. Negative 2 plus 5 is 3. Look at 17. Okay, again, you have a lot of variables here, a lot of exponents. Let's take the x's. And one thing you can do, if this helps you, if you want to circle your variables, the ones that are the same so you don't miss something, multiply the variables, keep the base, add the exponents. So that's 3 plus negative 1 plus 5. Those are for the x's. Now for the y's. Y to the second, y to the sixth, y to the negative 2. And now we just add. 3 plus negative 1 is 2. 2 plus 5 is 7. So we get x to the 7th. And then we get 2 plus 6 is 8. 8 plus negative 2, that's like 8 minus 2. We get y to the 6th. That's it. There's your answer. Okay, let's look at the two bottom sections here. Calculate the areas of the following rectangles. Well, area, the formula for the area of a rectangle, let's write this down. A equals L times W, length times width. Area is length times width. So in number 18, well, area is the length. A equals 3x to the 4th times 9x to the 13th. Multiply the constants. 3 times 9 is 27. When you multiply the variables, keep the base, add the exponents. So we get 27x to the 17th. Let's do one that looks really hard here. Let's skip 19. Let's do 20. Oh, that's a good problem. Whew, okay, lots of stuff going on here. Area is length times width. I'm going to copy this whole thing down. X to the 7th, y to the negative 2, times x to the negative 3, y to the 10th, times, that's your length. Your width is x to the 4th, y to the 1st. Put a 1 there. Times x to the 1st, y to the 3rd. Well, looks really tough. Let's just take it piece by piece. Let's look at the x's. X to the 7th, x to the negative 3, x to the 4th, x to the 1st. When you multiply the variables, what do? We keep the base. We add the exponents. 7 plus negative 3 plus 4 plus 1. And then we take the y's, multiply them, so you keep the base, add the exponents, negative 2 plus 10 plus 1 plus 3, and we get x to the, let's see, this is going to be 9, x to the 9th, y to the 8, 9, 12, x to the 9th, y to the 12th. That's how we do that problem right there. And let's go to the last section. Now it says calculate the volumes. The volumes of the following rectangular solids. Volume of a rectangular solid or prism, let's write this formula down. LWH, length times width times height. So in number 21, volume is, that's 4x squared, length times width is 4x squared, and the height is also 4x squared. So what do? We multiply the coefficients. 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. When you multiply the variables, you keep the base. You add the exponents. 2 plus 2 plus 2. We get 64x to the 6th. And let's do 22 here. Let's see, volume, length, a to the 6th, b, times the width, 2a squared, b to the 4th, times the height, negative 3a to the 9th, b to the 6th. When you multiply variables and coefficients, multiply monomials, start with the coefficients. Now this is a 1a to the 6th, that's b to the 1st. 1 times 2 times negative 3. Those are your coefficients. If I want to circle those there, that's a 1, that's a 2, that's a negative 3. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Now, let's see, the a's. Let me use a different color here. We have a to the 6th, a to the 2nd, a to the 9th. So we have a to the 6 plus 2 plus 9. And then what's left is the b's. Multiply the variables, keep the base, add the exponents. So we get volume equals -6, a to the 17th, b to the 11th. And that's your answer. And 23 is the same kind of problem. You have negative exponents, but I think you know how to do that. If you do this, okay, just to tell you, the volume is m to the 7th, n to the 21st, p to the 5th. All right, now, there is one more thing I want to talk about. Okay, and actually, we've run out of space. I'm going to go back up. We had some space next to 13 and 15 over here on the side. There's one special case. You're going to see this on your assignment. If you do your exponents, you add the exponents, if you end up with a negative exponent as your final answer, there's a rule that you can't leave that. That's not simplified. That's not a monomial. What we do, there's a rule that says you can write this, if you think of this as a fraction, well, what we'll do, we're going to write that as 1 over x to the 2nd. Those are actually the same. If your answer was x to the -4, we would write that as 1 over x to the +4. If you had a to the 3rd, b to the -2, we would write that as a to the 3rd over b raised to the +2. With a negative exponent, what you can do is, it's kind of like you flip it. You move it from the numerator down to the denominator. If I thought of that as a fraction, I would move this x to the -2. I move it down to the denominator, it becomes positive. Okay, so the overall rule for this, a to the -x equals 1 over a to the +x. Okay, that is it for your notes. Now you can get your assignment done, your classwork.